spoiler-free Infinite Wealth. What is happening to the last... Nah, this guy is hilarious. The last Atelier Resleriana game was a gacha one, which left a lot of fans very disappointed. So when this new entry was announced, there was plenty of worries and skepticism. After spending the past week playing, I can safely say this game is incredible, but it has a few immersion-breaking nitpicks that might turn some of you away. All the footage that you're gonna see is from PC, but I also tested it on Steam Deck, so by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly if this is the game for you while you see a spoiler-free review. Thank you Koei Tecmo Europe for the early review code. The game starts off by letting you choose your protagonist, which I think is a fantastic addition. Many of you have told me in previous Atelier videos that you wish you could play as a male protagonist, so here you go. Personally, I went with the female protagonist, Rias, because, well, look at her. She's an absolute cutie, but no matter who you choose, the other character will join your party later on, so you don't have to worry about it. You can switch between the two on the fly. Just keep in mind that the initial choice impacts the story, so it's worth thinking about. The entire game is fully voice acted and once again is Japanese only. The performances are incredible, they really bring the cast to life, but I still think it's a shame that there's no English dub available. If you've played previous Atelier games, you know how much the characters love to chat while you're out exploring, and sometimes you're gonna miss the fun banter between them or even important dialogue because you're focused on traversal and gathering, so you just can't understand what they're saying. Of course, you can check the event log to keep up with everything, but it's just not the same, and that breaks the immersion a little bit. Now, as you move through the story, you're gonna start seeing familiar faces from other Atelier games, which is such a nostalgic touch. Many of the characters appear as wanderers, so they're adventurers from other worlds, and every time a familiar face showed up, I just couldn't help but smile. The banter between the cast is entertaining to watch, and it helps the world just feel connected, even though the focus here isn't on lively NPCs, because again, if you played other Atelier games, you know that these NPCs just do nothing. They just stand there like a statue and they don't do anything. I also want to give you a very quick spoiler-free look at the story, just so you kind of see what the vibe is about. So two young adults are gonna return back to their abandoned hometown. This hometown was once a thriving, mining and trade hub, but it was devastated by a mysterious disaster about 12 years ago, and it caused its residents to vanish. Now that restrictions on the area finally lifted, we have the young woman, who's Rias. She hopes to restore her grandfather's shop, whereas the young man, Slade, he seeks answers about mementos which were left by his father. So both of their goals is to uncover the truth behind the town's disappearances. Gameplay, as usual, is where the Atelier games shine, and we have a lot to cover. If you're worried that this game is gonna, sneak some gacha mechanics, don't worry, this is a classic Atelier goodness. You've got your gathering, synthesizing, exploring, as well as running your shop, and yes, turn-based combat that is surprisingly engaging, and I know a lot of you have been wanting this to be back, so it's back. And speaking of which, let's talk about combat first. So you start fights by swinging your weapon at enemies on the field, and if you catch them off guard, you're gonna start the battle with an advantage. Now, combat is turn-based. It's built around a timeline system that shows who's gonna act next. Your basic attacks don't hit very hard, but they build AP, and you're gonna have to spend that AP on skills that deal big damage or apply effects to either the enemies or your party members. You also have a blocking system which keeps things engaging, so when an enemy attacks, you can time your block perfectly to trigger a precision guard, which not only cuts down the damage that you take, but it also prevents you from being inflicted with negative status effects. You can switch to the auto block setting, but keep in mind that that's only gonna give you a normal block, which means you're not gonna get the precision bonuses. And I feel like the timing of the blocks is very fair, so unlike games like Infinite Wealth, what is happening to the guy? I just woke up from a 3-hour disaster nap, that's why. But these blocks just feel a lot more natural and easier than games like Infinite Wealth, that one, because that one just made me want to rage quit. Is it a skill issue? Maybe. We're not going to talk about it. We're here to talk about Atelier, but again, they just feel very quick and natural, and you're gonna just nail them very quickly. Now, the battle timeline also has panel effects. So, for example, if an enemy has a panel that boosts their HP, you have to be strategic. You have to defeat them before their turn, and that will flip that bonus to your team instead, or the next character in line. It's a very small detail, but it adds, again, some fun strategic decisions in the middle of fights. You can also stun enemies, which opens up multi-actions, and that lets different characters chain their skills together, not skins. Chain their skills together. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that does huge damage combos, and because this is an Atelier game, you can also mix different items mid-battle, and that causes all sorts of effects to keep things interesting. So you're not gonna synthesize on the battlefield, but you can stack up the items as a multi-action. If you prefer battles to move faster, there is a combat speed up option, which I may or may have not used quite a lot. You can also use interrupts from other party members, so the combat just feels very fast-paced even though it's turn-based, and I love it. You're also accompanied by party members on the battlefield, so you can have 3 active members at a time, with others that will be in the reserve. Each character has a skill tree where you can spend points to raise core stat, and you can also unlock or enhance special abilities. And of course, you can change your gear, your weapons, your clothes, your accessories. You also have the same thing that we have in other Atelier games, where if you simply have an item in your inventory, it's not going to do anything in fights until you equip it, so make sure you equip everything individually to every single character. You can also change the style of your outfits, and that doesn't affect the stats, which we always get plenty of through paid DLC, and we already have a few available when you buy the game. Exploration is one of the best parts for me of any Atelier game, and it's not any different here. As you progress, you're gonna unlock different vantage points like glowing blue swing points, and that's gonna help you access areas that you couldn't reach before. It's a satisfying way to reward exploration and keep traversal feeling fresh. The enemy designs are also fun to discover. They feel quirky, creative, and sometimes a little bit hilarious. Of course, exploration is accompanied by sound effects that make gathering feel very satisfying, and the music overall is whimsical, but I gotta say I prefer Yumiya's OST more. Now, depending on whether it's day or night, different enemies will spawn, so the world feels alive and dynamic. To make traversal easier, you can fast travel, you can also use your minimap that you can zoom in and out of, and you have a full world map as well, so planning your routes and tracking down quests is pretty easy. Another very important part of any Atelier game is synthesis and gathering resources. So you can collect all sorts of resources throughout the world, but some of them are gonna require special tools to gather. You're gonna unlock these tools by helping the townsfolk. So for example, you have this farmer who needs a sickle. So when you complete the quest for him, you also get, a sickle for yourself. And these tools mean that you have new resource opportunities for you to gather, but you can also unlock some by buying recipe books and learning about them. That said, here's one of my first nitpicks. Every time you swing to gather a resource, the camera just jerks, and it's honestly very jarring, especially if you deal with motion sickness like I do. And sadly, there's no option in the settings to fix it, so it can be unsettling, especially when there are tons of resources to gather constantly. Now, crafting or synthesis is a lot easier than Yumiya, even though Yumiya was pretty simple, but still, this one is even simpler. Each recipe uses nodes, and if you match resources with similar adjacent colors, you're gonna unlock bonus effects for the item that you're synthesizing. So as you can see, each resource is divided into 2 colors, and this is referred to as gift colors. Even though synthesis is easy, I would say it still feels satisfying for veteran players. You can also use a replicator where you pay coal, which is the game's currency, and that way you can duplicate items very quickly or restock battle consumables, and it just makes everything feel more flowy, more, smooth, and you don't have to keep synthesizing every 2 seconds. Recipes are gonna unlock through story progression or by purchasing them in shops, as I mentioned, and when you synthesize, you also have a recipe tree system where you can morph new recipes and then you can learn to make new ones, which is pretty cool. Now, when you're exploring and through the story progression, you're gonna unlock a new feature that I really love, and it's called dimensional paths. These are basically dungeons where the layout is gonna change every time you enter. There are 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. And by the way, the game overall as well has 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. So in these dungeons, when you clear these paths, you're gonna get valuable rewards, like for example, star pearls, which have very strong traits and they boost your combat and your stats. And you can use them for other stuff, which I'm not gonna spoil for you. Outside of exploration, you have a lot of things to do in town, and the first thing that you're gonna learn about is shopkeeping. You're in charge of stocking shelves with gathered or synthesized items, and you can assign fairies to different roles like cleaning or managing inventory. The fairies are so cute. But each fairy is gonna have stamina, so eventually they're gonna need to rest. I feel like this naturally pushes you to engage with other gameplay mechanics because fairies are only gonna rest when you go gather resources or explore a dungeon or, engage in combat. And you can also find new fairies through exploration, and some of them even give you blessings that make combat or gathering easier, as these can be collected in the dimensional paths that I talked to you about earlier. Now, your shop will level up as you complete specific tasks like selling a certain number of items, and that encourages you to keep trying new things and diversifying what you stock and looking for new materials, synthesizing new items. You can also customize your shop with new floors, wallpapers, and decorations. It's not very complex, but it's still a small touch that I appreciate, especially because some decoration gives stat boosts and they really improve your efficiency. As you manage and run your shop, you're gonna rank up, and this in turn will encourage new merchants to come and new visitors as well, and you can unlock new decor. You also need to rank up your town and help restore it, so you can do that by running errands for the townsfolk. You can complete monster slaying requests. You can take on some bonding quests with some of the wanderers and the merchants, which also unlocks special orders for wanderers especially. So how many especiallys did I say? But basically, if it is a wanderer and you become closer to them, you can ask them to fetch some valuable resources for you. You can also invest in upgrades like nature or manufacturing or residence, and these will generally boost your gameplay, so they can boost drop rates or improve crafted item quality. This all creates a very fun factor that makes you interested in exploring new gameplay features, and even though the pacing is slow and the game is dialogue heavy, but the dialogue is really fun as well, I feel like I was unlocking a new gameplay feature every time I played, which made every game session exciting because I'm just eager to see what I'm gonna learn next. Now, as much as I'm enjoying and I'm having a great time with this game, I have a few nitpicks, but before we get into that, hello you gorgeous human being, it's Miss Bubbles. If this video is helpful so far, do me a favor and squish the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out a lot. And if you want to go the extra mile, check out my coffee if you want to donate some coffee for me, or you can become either a Patreon or a YouTube member for plenty of perks. Every little bit of help goes a long way so I can keep these videos coming for you. Okay, so first, there is no preview for the shop decor. You can only see tiny icons before you buy something, which means you can't really tell how they're gonna look like in your shop, and I don't like that. Second, the shop task overview is cumbersome. So this is when you see what kind of tasks you need to fulfill to rank up your shop. So you gotta go and talk to Ruku, one of the fairies, and I don't like that, because why can't I check it from the shelf menu just there? Because I'm just going back and forth and I don't know, I'm just taking screenshots or taking notes on my phone, and I think the devs need to move it so it's easier for everybody. Third, when you rank up the town, the quality of the cutscenes showing the restoration just drops significantly compared to the rest of the game. It's not a deal breaker, but it's noticeable and weird because I have no idea why this is happening, and it makes me just not feel very excited as I see, like, ooh, I, got this place to look better and this is so much cuter and all that. It just looks very, very bad quality. Fourth, there's no way to mark ingredients on the map, so tracking specific resources is way harder than it should be, and sometimes I'll even forget what, a recipe needs. Yumiya added resource tracking, and it was such an incredible quality of life feature, so having it return here would have been wonderful. Fifth, the inventory needs a search bar because there's so many items and they just don't stack due to the traits and the levels. I know this is probably an issue with all Atelier games, but it's just overwhelming trying to scroll through everything manually. And finally, the day and night transitions are so abrupt. Instead of a natural and gradual change as time is moving on, as you can see, the screen just cuts suddenly between morning and night, and it just breaks the immersion every single time it happens. Of course, we also mentioned the camera. This is a big issue. I had issues with the camera in Yumiya, and while things are not as bad as they were in that game, again, collecting feels so jarring with the sudden camera movements that just happens all the time. Performance-wise though, I have zero complaints. The game runs beautifully, and because it's a semi-open world, the areas feel compact, which keeps performance smooth, and I really like the UI and the menus. They're very gorgeous, and I feel like they fit this, you know, starry kind of atelier kind of theme. It just looks really nice. I also tested the game on the Steam Deck and I had zero issues. The game ran flawlessly for me over there. So the big question is the game going to be the one for you? We're gonna go with this game is for you if, not for you if, and my verdict. So this game is for you if you've been craving a classic Atelier experience with modern polish. It's perfect if you miss turn-based combat, if you love gathering, synthesizing, and shopkeeping. You want a game that, you know, has like a cozy, nostalgic Atelier feeling. And if you've been missing familiar faces, you just want to reconnect with them again, this is your perfect chance to do so. However, this game is not gonna be for you if you prefer fast-paced action combat, if static NPCs and, you know, very quiet towns just frustrate you in an RPG, because these are a staple in Atelier games. It's also not for you if you deal with motion sickness and you cannot handle sudden camera shifts. Granted, the game gives you motion blur and depth of field, which I love, but why did we go with this route with just moving forward and just having that sudden camera movement every time we collect? Anyways, it's also not for you if you just like micromanaging resources and inventory. And finally, it's not for you if you need English voice acting to fully enjoy a story, since the game is Japanese voice acted only. As for me, I think Atelier Resleriana is a stunning and lovely and cozy JRPG. I love the characters and the story overall is entertaining. It's keeping me interested. The introduction of new gameplay mechanics just keeps the gameplay loop fresh. It's definitely smaller and more focused than Yumiya was, but it's in the best way. So if you were disappointed by the previous gacha title, or you didn't vibe with Yumiya's direction, which was the first Atelier that released this year, I know many of you didn't enjoy it, but I loved Yumiya. But anyways, if you didn't like it, this one, it goes back to, you know, the classic Atelier feel, so I think you're gonna have a great time with it. So let me know if you're picking this one up, and if you're curious about what I thought about Yumiya, I have a review and a tips and tricks video for it. Thank you to my YouTube and Bubbly patrons for making videos like this possible, and a shout out goes to the games I mentioned, Jake Logan, Stella, and Yugoslav for going the extra mile. Until next time, stay bubbly.